All right.
Well, hello there. Okay, so Allison or Allie, which one do you prefer?
Allie, please.
Allie. Okay. Hi, Allie. Welcome to the Overcome Yourself podcast. As you know, my name is Nicole, and I'm so excited to talk to you today about your business and how, one of the unintended consequences, one of the unintended side effects of starting our podcast was how we developed our self-confidence. I loved how you pointed that out. So the first thing I want you to do is introduce yourself. Tell my audience who you are and how do you help your clients. And then, obviously I'm going to put all your links so they can get in touch with you at the end. But tell us about you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Nicole. Yeah, I'm extremely excited to be on the podcast and am so happy to be here. My name is Allie Couts, and I'm the founder of Coutts Creations LLC, which is it has two branches. One that focuses on branding and marketing for creatives by creatives. So I focus on helping small businesses, specifically artists and, like I said, other kind of creatives, but I tend to focus on other artists and help them through how to brand themselves and market themselves and do some social media coaching and that type of assistance for them. And then I also have the podcasting branch of Coutts Creations, which focuses on empowering others and empowering creatives to share their stories and their passions through podcasting. Because, as you mentioned, podcasting has really been kind of a powerful tool that I kind of stumbled upon that has helped me with my confidence and kind of overcoming social anxiety, and has really kind of helped me put myself out there. And so I really aim to help others kind of have that same experience through coaching, podcast coaching, and helping them get their stories out there. So that's a little bit about me and a little about my business. And yeah, I've got two podcasts now, actually. I just launched my second one earlier in June. So I've got the Fun with Friends podcast, which is all about putting yourself out there and trying new things, and kind of has an overall theme of what happens when you stop overthinking and you just start doing, because we all have a tendency to kind of get caught up in our mind.
Very guilty.
Exactly. Like get on that hamster wheel of overthinking and then never do anything. So that was one of the reasons why I started that podcast. And then I just launched a movie focused podcast. It's called What You Streamin'. And I guess it's movies, TV, and music, which all are big in my life. I enjoy consuming that type of content. So my best friend and I launched that podcast recently, where we've actually been able to speak with a couple of indie film directors, which has been really cool because the conversation actually turns out to be quite similar to conversations that I've had on the Fun with Friends podcast, which is about kind of how they got into filmmaking and how they all kind of just said, I'm not going to wait for someone to tell me I can make my film. I'm just going to do it. So it's been like really inspiring to hear how they all just kind of said, screw it, like I'm going to make a movie, and they did, and some of them have done really well. So
that's so
yeah,
cool.
That's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that you are doing what you love. You're just having fun and doing what you love. Like, you love movies, so let's podcast about movies. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And one of the things that I've actually was thinking about it is this weekend is a lot of the entrepreneurs out there are like, you got to get up at 5 a.m. You're never allowed to watch TV. You're not allowed to do these things. And I felt a lot of guilt about that in the beginning. Because I was like, well, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be. But, the point of what we do is enjoying ourselves, enjoying the journey, and learning to work smart, not hard. So I love that you've taken something that you legitimately love doing. Because I've been trying to figure out, how do I incorporate, like, I love watching movies. I love stories. I'm an author. And, how do I incorporate? So that's a great idea, is, just doing a podcast and talking. Doing like reviews and stuff, like doing your thing, right? That's cool.
That's a great thing about podcasts. Like, and I tell people all the time, you can literally have a podcast about anything at all. And as long as you enjoy it and you're passionate about it, and like that passion comes through, people who are also drawn to those things will find you. And I mean, you could literally have a podcast about knitting and the
Yeah.
knitters will find you. Like it's totally possible. And I wanted to touch on something else you said about feeling guilty about not having like the typical or normal type schedule. And that was actually something that I really struggled with, transitioning from, you know, like the 9 to 5 corporate job to working for myself, was that feeling of guilt. Like I wasn't working hard enough because I wasn't up at like 5 a.m. and working 10 hours a day and, you know, doing all that. But yeah, that has definitely been something I'm still struggling. I think I'm almost like 2 years in. Well, no, what year are we in? In pandemic years, I think it's been, you know, but no, I'm like a year.
27.
Yeah. I think I'm like a year into having my own business and I still struggle with that sometimes, like that feeling of like, am I hustling hard enough type feeling. So it's definitely one of the hurdles that some people, I guess, will experience when they
Well, what have
transition.
you done to kind of overcome that? How have you been able to adjust? Because we can't live like that, right? With that guilt.
No,
And we
I
can't
have
live
enough.
hustling 24 hours a day either. So how
Yeah,
did you find your middle ground? How are you looking for that?
I actually did this amazing, because I really, really struggle with it. Not only now, but previously. Like I'm very competitive. I grew up in a kind of uh, a family that was very big on like victim, like we are the victim, like we don't have the right name, like even if we work hard we're never going to accomplish anything. And that was how I grew up and what I knew like my entire life until I left for college. So I already had that mindset that I'm, you know, was never going to be good enough. So working hard is something that I've always done to an extreme, to, you know, to the point of like I have panic, you know, I was having panic
Burnout? Yeah.
attacks and anxiety because I was just like trying to be the best at everything. And that got better when I started working for myself, but it was still something that was there. Like I have to be the best. Like, why am I not like the best podcast coach or the best at whatever I'm doing? And trying to force myself to get up super early, which I'm a night owl. And so one way that I have been working on it is I actually did this program called Your Mescape. And it's the woman that does it, her name is Shelly, and we're actually really good friends now, but she's also a travel coach. And the whole purpose of the program I did with her was to reset my brain. Like, what's your ideal day? So maybe it's not getting up at 8 a.m., it's getting up at 10. So like, let's aim to get up by like 10 or 11. And then, okay, what's next? Well, for me, it's having a cup of tea or two and just like sitting down and like slowly working my way into work.
Your success habits, your morning success habits, right? Like they don't make you money, but they do kind of make you money, right?
Yeah,
I'm very big on that.
I need a good like 2 to 3 hours after I wake up to kind of get going. And then my goal is usually to start work by like 1 or 2 p.m. And sometimes it's not until 3. And I mean, it's taken me almost a full year to be okay with that, because I'm still putting in a good 4 or 5 hours of work at the end of the day. I'm just starting work later than other people, but I'm still getting work done. And it took me doing this like actually working with someone to be like, it's okay that you don't start work at 8 a.m. Like it's
Hey,
funny
Al,
because like,
it's okay that you don't start work at 8 a.m. Will you tell me that too? Will you say that to me too?
Nicole, we don't have to start work at 8 a.m.
Yay!
It's perfectly okay. Perfectly okay. We will still get done what we need to get done.
Yes,
And
we will.
and also redefining success.
Big time.
Big thing. huge. And that also was something that I had to kind of reconfigure in my brain, because I was like, okay, success. What is success to me? And with my small business, does that mean financial success? Does it mean, having X number of clients per month, per year? And it turns out for me, it's success is having the freedom to do what I want, and not necessarily a financial number or a client number. And again, coming from like the corporate world where it's all like metrics and numbers, and like, we have to make X amount of money and this amount of time and talk to this many people, and working through all of that and kind of retraining myself, it was one way to kind of come back to what does success actually mean to me. And it's just being free to do what I want on the daily.
And you're getting stuff done, right? You've got clients.
Exactly.
You're paying bills. Like, I mean, you're making money from your computer, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's still so amazing, isn't it? When I go to pay something and I'm like, I made this like by myself.
Yeah.
Like, I did this.
Yeah, it's such a fulfilling, it's an amazing feeling. Like every time I make like a sell of any kind, because I also do artwork. So like
That's so
I've been
cool.
pushing, it's something I've always enjoyed, and kind of lost that creativity for probably a good couple decades. And like came back to it when I stopped working for other people, kind of refound my creativity and started doing art again. And so I find that really fulfilling. Like when I make a sell, when someone purchases some of my art, I'm like, yes, like that's.
Where do you sell it? Do you have it online?
It's online, and then I've really gotten into doing like makers markets around the Raleigh, North Carolina area where I live. Like I've gotten into, and it's really awesome because you get to meet all these other creatives and makers who are doing the same thing. Like they're quitting their full-time jobs and just going full into making art or whatever. They're, a lot of candles and soap makers like are going full-time into those fields and kind of living their dreams and living for themselves and working for themselves. And it's always like really inspirational to be, in a crowd of like 50 makers, and we're all just like living our best lives.
We made this. Made this.
Yeah, it's like you're giving a little piece of yourself to someone every time someone buys something. So it's a really cool feeling.
It is. That's exciting. That's so cool. Yeah, I love going. I have not been to. That's a good idea, like arts and stuff. Like, I guess we have craft fairs down here in Florida. I've got to look into that. You just caught me like, I've never looked into that. That would be kind of cool to go see something like that. Like a farmer's market, or what did you say that it was called? I've never heard that term.
We call it a maker's market or a craft market.
Okay, that makes sense. Maker's market.
I feel
I'm gonna
like
look into that.
In Florida, or like an art walk, I think they're sometimes called.
Art Basel. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, there you go.
Something like that. So.
Okay, cool. All right.
Or what? In Florida, I'm trying to think. I used to live in Florida, like first Fridays, I think, or second.
Yes,
Saturday.
I think it is.
You get like
and then the last is the bike ride. The last Friday of the month is the critical mass bike ride.
Nice.
But then then they have the art thing, and then once a year I think we have the big art Basel that they close down Miami Beach and they close down Wynwood. Yeah. But they do have an event. You're right. You're totally right. And I have been to that. Okay. All right. See, so I'm cool. I'm kind of hip, right? I sound like an old person.
No. I think in Miami too, there's a big one that's I think it's called the Maker Society, and it's spelled MAKR, Maker Society. It's a really big like makers market that they do down in Miami, I believe.
Interesting.
You might want to check that one out.
Yes, I will. That's another thing that I've loved about podcasting, is all the stuff I've gotten to learn. The people I get to meet, like people that otherwise like are maybe not my niche, but we're still talking, like would you and I have come into contact and gotten to know each other and possibly work together in the future if it hadn't been for interviewing each other, and saying, hey, I want to interview you, right?
Yeah, no, that's the other great thing about podcasting is the people you will meet. Like it's insane. I've interviewed like best-selling authors, international like travelers. I've interviewed people from like Finland, Australia, like all over the world, and it's insane how you can connect with people through podcasting. And it's definitely another aspect of podcasting that I really love is like I had a really bad speech impediment growing up.
Oh wow.
Like really bad, and have this moment that I can always remember where I was in Girl Scouts and we had to record an ad for the local radio station, and I had to do it just over and over and over again because I couldn't pronounce the words correctly. So that's like always something I think that has been like in the back of my brain, and I've been like terrified of like public speaking and just like putting myself out there and having to talk to people. Again, it all kind of bundles down to having anxiety that in every way. And so podcasting was another way for me to like put myself out there and build my confidence and be able to have like full conversations with people. And
you laugh, but it's true.
It's and to like,
you're not the only one. I want you to know that you are not the only one. I don't have like that I know of a speech impediment, but the fear of talking to people. And you know what, in the online space, I've noticed that a lot of times when you talk to someone, it ends up being like a sales conversation, and that gets kind of annoying. And so in the podcast arena, like that's not what it is. And so you and I get to have like a real conversation as two entrepreneurs where we're not trying to sell each other or anything. And it's beautiful because we're actually talking about, we're providing value. You know what I mean? We're talking about real stuff. And one of the things is like what we're talking about, like, I'm not the only one. Because entrepreneurship can be so lonely. Like you're in your house all day, and then maybe your partner comes home, but you're still at home, and you're telling them all these things and the ROI, and they're like, I don't know what that means. And you're like, I don't feel like explaining this right now. So can we just, and so it can be very lonely, and you're like, crap, I'm all alone. I'm the only one. And this has opened up a world that I'm not the only one who's thinking like bigger. I'm not the only one who's focusing on adjusting my mindset. When you were telling me earlier about your story, it's all about perspective, isn't it?
Oh,
it's all
100%.
about how you look at things. And I'm not the only one that's figured that out. And sometimes when you're like by yourself in your little circle with your friends that, work 9 to 5s, and you're and then you're like, I don't who do I talk to about this?
It's hard to, that was definitely something I noticed too when I switched from 9 to 5 to working for myself, was the conversation around me, especially with my friends. And I went all in. Like I quit my job, I started my own business, and then I moved. So I was like, bye everyone, and like went and am lucky enough, like I live with my best friend and her husband, and they were lucky enough to be like, you can live with us while you get your business up and running, and like, have this creative space, and you don't have to worry about like overhead and stuff. So I've been really lucky to be able to do that, because not a lot of entrepreneurs have that option. And so I'm like forever grateful for
but still that is a connection that you had to build up. It's still your best friend. So at some point you made a connection, you added value to that relationship, and now they're there to, you know what I'm saying? So like, you've always been a connector there. That's cool.
And like Katie and I have been like besties for ages, but when I left that 9 to 5 space, I noticed the conversation around me was all about work all the time, and there wasn't like, that was the thing that was connecting people, and it wasn't necessarily like what we were passionate about. And so I really started paying attention to the conversations, and I was like, whoa, we literally are just talking about work all the time, and it's not like a joyful conversation. Like we're not enjoying it. Usually we're complaining about it. And so it definitely got a little, I don't want to say difficult, but it definitely changed kind of like the relationships with friends and folks, because I was like, I don't want to talk about work all the time. Like, let's talk about stuff we enjoy doing.
Yeah, let's talk
So
about
that was,
ideas. Let's talk about the
yeah,
future. Let's see what we can bring to life, like how
yeah,
can, instead of complaining about this issue, what can we put into place to fix it? Like, you don't have enough money, let's go make some more money. You don't have enough
yeah,
time, let's go get some more time. You need more money, like there's so many things. And it's like, let's just do something about it then,
yeah. Let's
and
do
yeah.
something we actually enjoy.
Yes, exactly. Let's do something about this. I don't want to talk about it. I want to do something. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
And oh, go ahead.
no, go.
Oh, I was just gonna say something. We were talking about kind of being like isolated because we're entrepreneurs and we're working at our laptops and, not around people as much as we used to be. But something about the podcasting community that is absolutely amazing, that I'm so thankful for, is that everyone is so nice. Like,
Yeah.
you always see the like, uh, community over competition, like hashtag community over competition. And it's like 100% true in my experience with the podcast community. That is should be our motto, because, I'm part of groups on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram made up of podcasters, and everyone is there to build everyone else up and to say, okay, great, you have a new episode coming out, awesome, let's promote that for you. Or you have a question about whatever, yeah, like, let's come together and figure out how to solve that problem for you. Like, it's a remote or digital community, but it has been one of the most amazing communities that I've ever been a part of. Like, the support is just insane.
I totally agree. Like, in other, yeah, I've with like interviews, with setting up and stuff, like you mentioned, everyone has been really nice. And then anyone that I've asked, like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? They're like, sure. They're like, do you want to be on mine? You're like, oh my God, I would love to. So yeah, it's really cool. Okay, I have a question about podcasting for the audience. Have you monetized your podcast? Like, do you have any tips for monetization? Or we're not there yet? It's totally cool if you're not, or if you don't want to
I
share.
So I have done what probably a lot of podcasters do when they first start, especially if you use like a platform like Anchor FM, which is what I use for my podcast. Like, they start you off with a sponsorship from them, where you get like a little bit of money, but you have to hit like a certain number of downloads before they give you other sponsors. And that's really been all I've done. When I started my podcast, it wasn't about the money, which is what I always tell people. I'm like, if you're going to start a podcast, like, if making money is your top tier choice for starting a podcast, I don't know how successful you will be.
Okay.
Like, you can make money podcasting, and there are tons of ways to do it. But for me, when I do like podcast coaching, I really want my clients to focus on the passion, the why. Like, why are you podcasting? Is it because you have a story that you want to share and you want to build a community around like an issue? Or, is it to like inform? Like, what is your why? Because the majority of podcasters don't make it past their 9th episode. And it's because they run out of passion.
Oh my goodness. Yay. I'm not a statistic, or I am, but I'm on the good side of the statistic.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, because they run out of the oomph, right? Because podcasting takes a lot. Like, you have to be like really devoted to it and dedicated, and you have to put in work. And a lot of people run out of that if they don't have a good reason for starting their podcast, and that passion behind it. So when it comes to monetization, yes, 100% you can do it. I am looking for ways to monetize my podcast, but I'm going about it a different way. Instead of looking at like big corporations and like, sponsorships from I don't know, what are some of the popular ones? Like, I don't know. There are ones that you always hear on podcasts,
Yeah, yeah.
but what I'm looking to do is to reach out to small businesses that are in my area. So local small businesses, um, other entrepreneurs that have opened shops around, again, like the Raleigh area, and
Sorry.
say, no worries, and ask them if they would be interested in running ads on my podcast. And I personally think that's a great idea for podcasters to try. Like, if you live in an area, if there is a product or a store that you frequent that you like, approaching them and asking them if they'd be willing to do like some type of sponsorship. Like, I'll run an ad 5 times on my podcast for uh, $15 or $20 or something like that. And that's where you get started. And then you can build up from there once you get going. So that's how I'm looking to monetize my podcast. But yeah, I mean, there are tons of ways you can do it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm like, there are a lot of ways. But that's how I'm looking to monetize mine in the future. But I definitely, it's not been something that's been high on my radar. Like, I started my podcast purely for like my mental health. and it's grown, and it's heading into season 3, and so now I'm looking a little more on the like
Right.
business side of it. So I'm like, all right, season 3, maybe we start looking at how we can monetize some of this, and going from there. But
No, that's cool.
yeah, I always encourage people to kind of approach podcasting from more of a I don't know, like an emotional place, maybe. I don't know if that's the right term or phrase to use, but I when I put people through like my program, or I help with people with podcasting, I want to know why you're podcasting, who you're trying to reach, why you want to reach them, and how and why you think they're going to listen to your podcast over someone else's. Like, I want to work through that with you. And it's the same thing when you start a business, right? Like, you want to know who your client is, who
Your
your ideal
audience.
client is, how you're going to find them, how you're going to reach them, and then what is going to make them want to choose you over some other business that's doing the same thing. And podcasting is the same way. If you approach it from that kind of entrepreneur business mindset, like, we need to build your brand as a podcaster. And part of that is figuring out the why. And if it's just, I want to make money, we'll work on it a little bit.
Right. Yeah, money is the byproduct of doing something well.
Exactly.
So yeah, I totally agree with that. And yeah, it's about connecting, it's about building that community, because I mean, that's where it comes from anyway, right? Because Malcolm Gladwell talks about the connections that make us money is not our close acquaintance, it's not our close friends, it's not the people that are in our circle, it's acquaintances. So the way that we make more connections, the way we can make more money, the way we can make more clients, make more deals, is more acquaintances. And that's what podcasting is opening up your network, and providing value to your audience so that they can take something away, they can learn something, and then hopefully they can reach out to you and be like, hey, can I pay you to help me with this?
100%. Exactly. And the other thing
Exactly.
is like, I think people, and again, it's like ingrained in us, it's like a societal norm, right, is the metrics. Like, we got to know numbers, everything's about numbers, and how many listeners and how many clicks and how many likes and all of that. And the thing with podcasting, like, I'm like, I like to tell people, I'm like, don't focus on your listens, don't focus on your listenerships and your subscriptions and all that, especially when you're first getting started, because you're gonna like freak yourself out.
As a
And
matter of fact, no, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, and the thing is like, I think people have a misconception of how many listens they should be getting per episode, because a lot of us listen to pretty popular podcasts, right? Like, the ones that I really enjoy, they probably get hundreds of thousands of listens per episode. And the reality is like, if you're getting 20 to 40 listens per episode, you're doing amazing. If you're getting over 40, like, holy shit, you're a superstar, you know, like, and it's again, kind of redefining what is success. Like in the corporate world, or I guess normally or typically, right? Like 20 doesn't seem very, like 20 is not great, right? But podcast world, you get 20 to 40, like you're doing amazing per episode. That's great. So again, it's
No,
kind of,
you've said, hold on, you got me so excited.
yeah.
You said so much stuff in there. First of all, something I heard Russell Brunson say is the first thing you've got to do, the whole first point of like the first like 40 episodes that you record, is they're supposed to be shit. They're supposed to be, because you haven't found your voice yet. You have to do like, you have to go hardcore, and you've got to get through like the first 40 to 50 episodes to find your voice. So to be honest with you, I haven't looked and seen how many listeners, because my goal
Amazing.
is not to see how many listeners am I getting. My goal is to get to 50, because then I'm like, okay, because that's where I'm going to find my voice. And let me tell you that I sound a hell of a lot better now.
Yeah.
And this is not even close to my 50th episode than I did the first one. The first one, I was a mess. I was so nervous. I was scared. I didn't know. I was like, what am I talking about? And as you can see, just, 10, 15, 20 episodes later, I sound like something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're getting comfortable. You're finding your groove. Yep.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like you gotta overcome that hurdle and keep going.
Exactly. And the other thing I was going to say is the difference between over there and over here. Are you good?
Yeah, I just had to clear my throat.
Okay. Is that it's not about the 20 listens, because as entrepreneurs, the things that we do are exponential. And so the trajectory that we are on is indefinitely more important than where we are. And so having, 10 episodes that have no listens is 100 times better to have one episode that has 100 listens and then you don't have any other episodes ever again. Right? Because you're on the trajectory of where you want to be. You know what I'm saying? So you just had so much gold in there. I loved it. So I just want to, and it's actually a quote from James Clear in Atomic Habits. I don't want to take credit for that. The trajectory thing, I wrote about it in my book, but that's totally James Clear.
Love it. Yeah. And something else that goes along with like the listens and stuff, like what we're talking about is I would rather have the same 5 people listen to my podcast every week and only have 5 listens than have 20 people that listen to one episode and never come back. Because like you said, it's about building that community. You're building that connection with your listeners, and that is what turns into monetization. Like a lot of podcasters do Patreons, right? Like someone who drops in for one episode or maybe 2 episodes is not going to subscribe to your Patreon, but those 5 listeners that are there for every episode are probably more likely to pay extra to get, extra merch or extra episodes or whatever. So it's finding, I mean, this is like cliche, right? But like finding your tribe and finding your people and like building that connection with them. That's really what it's all about in podcasting.
Definitely not cliche, like that is, I guess we've said it so much, we're in the online space so much that we hear it all the time, but it's so important, especially when people are starting out. A lot of people are like, well, Tony Robbins isn't niche down. Well, you know what? When he started, he was. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I know that whatever, it might be controversial, but the numbers are the numbers. So like, you know what I'm saying? When he started out, he was niche down. He only did the neuro-linguistic programming, right? And now he kind of does a bunch of stuff, but he didn't get that until he had niched down and gotten really, really good at what he did.
Yep.
So we've got to do the same thing.
Got to build that following, and then you can do whatever you want.
Exactly. And you know what? You can't do the Patreon. You can't get the sponsorships. You can't monetize until you have an audience. Because like you said, who cares if you have a podcast, if you have Patreon, if you're like emailing sponsors, but nobody's listening, or you don't have any episodes, it doesn't work. So building that audience, providing value, that's definitely the most important. I'm so excited to have spoken to you. Do you have any last minute tips, or are we good? Because we've talked a lot today.
I think To end it, I guess I would say, and this does not come from me, so I cannot take credit for it. It actually comes from Shelly, who I mentioned earlier. But when it comes to the mindset, especially for entrepreneurs, don't think I have to, like, oh, I have to get up and I have to do this or do that. It's I get to and I can.
Yeah.
And that has been a huge help for me because I would wake up and be like, oh God, I have to go and like sit down and turn on my computer and do this. And I was like, no, I get to. Like, I've chosen to do this. I get to sit down and do something that I love every day. And I chose to do that. And so flipping that switch mentally will do wonders for you. So it's not I have to, it's I can and I get to and I choose to.
Love it. Thank you so much, Allie. This has been absolutely awesome. And okay, and like I said, I'm gonna include all of your links. Hold on, let me check them out here. For your stuff at the bottom, we've got your Instagram, we've got your website, we've got your podcast. You included the Fun with Friends podcast.
Mhm.
I definitely want to check out the other podcast you mentioned though.
Yeah,
So
it's
send me that link.
I was very lazy. And they're both under the exact same thing. So if you go to the Fun with Friends
Oh, perfect.
podcast, you will find what you're streaming. It's a Fun with Friends production. So
Okay. No, that's perfect.
It's all in one stream. It makes it easier.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Allie. I will let you know as soon as this goes live then, okay?
Yeah.
And okay, I'm gonna